We have a friend who's joined the party. Oh. G'day guys, how's it going? It is 2023, the end of 2023 here in Australia, so I thought I should stop procrastinating and update you guys on my top 10 favourite books at least during 2023. There will be a tier ranking video coming eventually when I get the chance to film that. It's been super busy here. I've got a lot of exciting things coming in the new year to do with social media, which I've been working on, so you'll see that soon. But yeah. Anywho, I thought I should update you at least on some of my favorite books. I've narrowed it down to 10, which was extremely hard, but I think it's a good start and a broad overview of my year in reading. I feel like I've really niched down and hit my stride in what I like to read. I'm sort of figuring that out, and I guess you're always doing that, and I know it's dynamic, and next year it's probably going to change again. However, I thought I would update you now and give you a little look at my favorite books. As I said, my top 10, I couldn't narrow it down to my favorite one. I feel like this is 10 that are all even playing field. They were all so great in different ways. But yeah, a really beautiful year of reading, so I thought I should update you. Let's talk about it. So the first book I read was Thomas Jodorowsky's Swimming in the Dark. And this book, as I said, was the first book I read, but also made my top 10 list, which is crazy. I think I did do this book a little bit of a disservice because I read it over 2 weeks, and I read most of it in one sitting, and then I came back after 2 weeks after being on holidays and read like 20 pages to finish it off. But nevertheless, I still love this book, and I have a lot to thank, or a lot of gratitude towards it, because it is the book that propelled my TikTok upwards. It got quite a lot of views. It was my first ever book talk review, and so I'm super grateful to this book. However, what is it about? Swimming in the Dark is set in Poland in 1980s during a communist period, and it talks at length about freedom and identity, and it follows this young boy as he comes to terms with not only his own sexuality but enters his first relationship, which of course was very taboo at the time, and it talks about what it means to love someone who doesn't share the same political and moral views as you, and how you negotiate that. And the prose is also magnetic and magnificent, which just adds to it. And yeah, I really love this book. I think it's a beautiful novel that touches on some really important and universal topics that aren't just gay, they're universal to all relationships. But I think it's a really interesting portrayal of first gay love, and I enjoyed it a lot. And as I said, the prose is magnificent, and was written in English, which is Thomas Jodorowsky's second language, which is just mind-boggling to me. It's an amazing book. So if you haven't read Swimming in the Dark by Thomas Jodorowsky, check it out. It is chef's kiss. Another book that made my top 10 list, which I read at the start of the year, was Giovannis Room by James Baldwin, which I feel like I don't really have to talk too much about. I feel like most of you would have read it. Giovanni's Room is a gay classic. It's set in 1950s Paris, and it follows David, this seemingly straight man who embarks on this secret love affair with Giovanni as he waits for his fiancée to return. It is full of lust, yearning, it's super hot, it's super gay. I feel like everybody has to read it. It's required reading. There's a lot of interesting history surrounding the novel as well, and how it was locked away and you couldn't purchase it. It was locked behind counters and you could actually be prosecuted for buying it, which is just so crazy to me. But yeah, I really loved it. I felt like I had to read it, and I'm so glad I did. I'm definitely going to read it soon. And this book has just spiraled for me because I got painted holding this book, so I'm going to put a photo on the screen because you can see me holding Giovanni's Room, and Giovanni's Room was in the set, at the performance, at the exhibition, and it was just crazy. So that's probably contributed to why I love this book so much. But yeah, Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, definitely on my top 10. Next, Crush by Richard Sykin has to be on my top 10 list. Crush, if you didn't already know, is a gay male-on-male poetry collection that won the Yale Series for Younger Poets, which is sort of like a competition where poets submit, and if they're chosen, they work with a really famous editor to curate their collection and have it published. And Crush is one of the main male-on-male poetry collections, and it's just crazy because it was published in 2005, which is a significantly long time ago. But this book talks at length and depicts gay love, gay first love, masculinity, toxic masculinity even, and the violence within gay relationships, which I think is not touched on a lot, and it talks about being in love with someone who doesn't necessarily treat you very well, and the prose is magnetic. I have a tattoo for this, so it's a wishbone. That's probably my favorite poem, Wishbone. But yeah, it's such a good collection, my favorite poetry collection of all time, 1000%. And I definitely think you guys should read it if you can get your hands on it. I saw it at the bookshop near my house, which is so random because it's usually something you have to order online. But if you're around my area, then go and buy it because I already have a copy. The next book I really enjoyed was Shagy Bane by Douglas Stewart. This book, so good. I literally cannot describe how much I love this book. A bit of a lengthier book, which is surprising for me because I tend to stay away from longer books. But this is, it's just so good. This book is set in 1980s Glasgow, and it follows young Shagy as he orbits around his mother, who is struggling and descending deeper and deeper into alcoholism. This book is such a beautiful commentary on unconditional love, on identity, on queerness, on growing up with people who don't value you, and growing up in poverty. There's so many really important topics in this book that are covered, and to add to that, it's done perfectly. The prose is so phenomenal. There's just passages where you can just keep highlighting and highlighting and highlighting. If you have read it, the one scene where Shagy is dancing is something that I think about daily. It is my Roman Empire. Yeah, Douglas Stewart is so funny and witty as well. I've listened to many podcasts with him since reading it, and I also read Young Mungo, but I did like Shagy Bane quite a bit more. But Douglas Stewart is just so captivating, and this book actually took him 10 years to write, fun fact, and he got his partner to read it for the first time, and it was like over 1,000 pages, and they ended up having a massive fight over it, and Douglas refused to talk to him for months over the feedback he got, which is a fun fact. But yeah, Shagy Bane, beautiful, a little bit longer, so if you're looking for a longer book, read it, but it can take a little bit of concentration, but 100% I would recommend it to you guys. So yeah, Shagy Bane. Next, another favorite of mine this year was A Horse at Night on Writing by Amina Kane. I haven't read Amina's fiction. I plan to, but I just went straight to A Horse at Night on Writing, which is a writer's on writing. It talks about all the books she loves, how she writes, the lifestyle behind creating art, and her passion for writing. It's, I don't know, I think writers on writing, that's all you can say about it. You sort of just have to read it for yourself. There's some beautiful advice and lines, and I just found myself underlining constantly with A Horse at Night. And the cover, magnificent. I'm going to put all the covers up on the screen. I didn't want to mess up my bookshelf today, so they'll be on the screen. But Amina Kane, A Horse at Night on Writing, I'm so glad I read it. It's been on my list for so long, and it didn't disappoint. Then we get to the Argonauts. The Argonauts, where do I start? I love Maggie Nelson. The Argonauts launched me into a Maggie Nelson love affair. I've got 2 more Maggie Nelson books that I need to read, which I will be doing very soon because I'm withdrawing. It's only been a few weeks, and get her back in my bloodstream. But the Argonauts is, I don't know, I related to it so much, but I also found myself critically thinking a lot, and I feel like this book made me a better person. It made me think more critically about things that I wouldn't have otherwise thought about, and I definitely recommend this. If you don't know what it's about, it's a queer theory book, which is almost a diary of sorts to Maggie Nelson's partner, who is gender fluid, and it talks about everything from queerness to motherhood to art, to freedom, to everything. Like, everything is touched on in this book, and it's weaved together, and it's seamless. She just slowly trickle feeds you little things and creates this beautiful masterpiece, which you can look back and you see there's some beautiful ideas and concepts and passages that, again, another book where you'll just be underlining stuff constantly. It was big brain energy. I still think that I could reread it a million times and not understand everything in it. So if you're looking for a light read, this might not be it, but it would definitely make you think about things, which is always good for a change, I guess, from something a little bit easier. And since reading The Argonauts, I've just been obsessed with Maggie Nelson, and I have listened to so many podcasts with her, and she's also incredibly witty and funny, which so many of these authors are, which is so lovely. And it just adds to the experience of reading their other books, because you just have that little taste of who they are as a person. So yeah, The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. This might, I don't want to say it, but this might actually be my favorite if I had to pinpoint it down, The Argonauts. I loved it so much. And then continuing on the Maggie Nelson train, Bluets, which is a collection of essays all relating back to the color blue, was another one of my favorites. I don't even know how to describe this, but Maggie Nelson in these passages, it's almost a diary of sorts again, talks about the color blue, and there's all these different topics which she somehow weaves and circles it back to the color blue. And I love the color blue in general, but seeing it linked to all these other amazing things, and it's just such an abstract way of thinking, I really appreciate that, and it was so refreshing and something I hadn't read before. And I think I read it at such an interesting time this year, and it just felt right at the time I read it, and a lot of it I related to it, and I just got it. So yeah, Bluets by Maggie Nelson, loved it. I want more Maggie Nelson, I just do. I cannot wait to read more. 2024 is the year of Maggie Nelson, mark my words. Another one of my favorite books this year was definitely Foster by Claire Keegan. An incredible, incredible book that is so evocative and passionate and impactful, and super, super short. So Foster, if you didn't already know, is a book that's under 100 pages, and it follows this young girl in rural Ireland in the summer, and she's sent away to live with distant relatives after her impoverished family is dealing with the birth of yet another child they can't afford. So they palm this young girl off to live with people she doesn't know. And it is just heartbreaking and beautiful and just so impactful. Claire Keegan is so economical with her words. She says so much with so little words, and the prose is again magnificent. If you're looking for a book with amazing prose, you have to read this. And it talks a lot about inevitability and the fact that a lot of the time we know certain things are going to happen, and it doesn't matter what we do, that they will happen, and you can feel this sense of impending doom throughout the novel. It's the atmosphere Claire Keegan creates, and I loved it so much. My dad also loved it so much. My dad talks about it on a daily basis, but I recommend Foster to people all the time because I feel like everybody can get something out of it. It's a short read. It's very, very sad, but it's also just sweet at the same time. And yeah, any Irish fiction has my heart. I also read another Claire Keegan this year and plan on reading. I've got another Claire Keegan on my TBR. So another author that I've become obsessed with this year, Claire Keegan. Then another one of my favorites would have to be Blue Nights by the one and only Didan. Blue Nights really lit a spark under my butt with Didan. I feel like I really need to read more Didan next year. I've read 2 other Didans, but Blue Nights really, really spoke to me. I think it was the way it was written and the really beautiful lines. And I think this book, if you didn't already know, follows Joan in the aftermath, and as she comes to terms with dealing with the death of her only daughter and her only child, Quintana Roo, after the death of her husband. So there's just a boatload of trauma that she is coming to terms with, and she's writing to you, and she's got this whirlwind of emotions going on inside of her, and I feel like it's so raw, vulnerable, and honest, and I really, really enjoyed that and appreciated that. It's also quite short, which I think was impactful. But yeah, I feel like there's not too much to say. It's Didan, so Didan's great. I want to read more Didan next year. It's another one of the authors that I really want to read more of. So yeah, can't complain there. And my final mention of my top 10 books is going to go to Juno Loves Legs by Carl Geary. This book is exquisite. It's chef's kiss. It's to die for. But this book is as if Just Kids and Shagy Bane had a baby. So it'd be a beautiful baby, and that is Juno Loves Legs. So this book is set in Glasgow in the 1980s, and it follows Juno and Legs from their early adolescence when they embark on this friendship all the way into their early adulthood as they're drawn back to each other, and as they deal with so many things that are going on with their own identity, with alcoholism, with poverty, with so many things, and it's so beautiful. Calgary is, again, economical with words, but paints this picture of these characters where you feel like you know them, you feel like they're your friends. My heart broke for these characters. It was incredibly sad. It made me sob like a baby, but it was so good. It was so good. And I feel like if you are looking for a book with the same vibes as Patti Smith, then you have to read Juno Loves Legs, because it has a lot more queerness in it, probably. Actually, no, that's a lie. It's just another queer book that you could read. But yeah, that sums it up. So they're my top 10 books of the year. I definitely could have added more. I feel like any Patti Smith I read could have been slotted in there. So just put Patti Smith as a whole into that bunch of favorite books. I read 4 or 5 Patti Smith books this year, which were all phenomenal. So that's another mention. And I also read 2 Rachel Cusk books, which has launched me on the Cusk train. I've got 2 more on my TBR, which I need to read. But yeah. That's my favorite top 10 books or so of 2023. I'm so excited for next year, a year full of reading. I'm not going to set any particular reading goals for next year, I don't think. I think I'll just put it as a book a week, 52 books, but try more to focus on certain aspects of literature that I want to learn more about. I want to read more writers on writing. I want to read more Cusk, Didan, Smith, Patti Smith and Nelson. They're 4 main authors, which I really want to get more of. And yeah, I think I might want to read some longer books as well. But I'm just going to try and take the pressure off in 2024. I'm going away for 8 weeks, so I think that'll contribute to it. But nevertheless, reading's always exciting, always endless possibilities, and I'm still so stoked on it. So yeah, I'm frothing. But yeah, I hope you guys are well. I'm wishing you a very happy new year, and I'll see you soon. I promise. Lots of new updates, lots of exciting things happening. If you want to see more of me, link in the description downstairs to all my other platforms. If you want to buy any of the books I've mentioned here, there's a link for that in Amazon storefront, which will help me out tremendously. And yeah, I hope you're well. I'll talk to you soon. Toodaloo. Goodbye.